welcome back to Peek Up the Aisle with me, Jenny from Night Ceremonies. Today's guest is a very special guest, is a master florist. He hails from Holland. He's also a big fan of fashion, colour, art and singing. And he was quite the star of the big flower fight over on Netflix recently. I'm delighted to welcome the lovely Henck Roling. Welcome. So, hello, Henck. How are you?
Hello, Jen. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. I've sort of dressed up in my wedding finery for you.
You have, and you're looking gorgeous, so colourful, and I'd expect nothing less from you. So, welcome, welcome. So, as you know, I'm a huge fan of yours from the Big Flower Fight show. It's what catapulted you into the mainstream, if you like, for many people, including my family. We were all glued to our TV sets watching you. But obviously, as much as we are fans of Team Jan and Henck, today we're talking about another partner of yours, your lovely hubby, Sean. How is he, by the way? Is he okay?
He's very well. He's working from home most days in the pandemic, obviously. No, he's doing really well. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, today we're going to obviously talk about your lovely wedding day. So, when I first chatted to you, I did say that I found it very difficult to find anything out about your wedding day. So, I did a bit of Facebook stalking and online stalking, and I found some pictures.
Yeah.
So, tell us about your day and how did you meet Sean, first of all? Tell us about that.
Well, we meet on an online platform.
Yes.
And I still do occasionally, live drawing.
Yes.
And in my little blurb, I sort of mentioned that I was doing live drawing, looking for models. And he was like, "Oh, I'll sit for you."
Yeah.
So we arranged for a sitting, and we met up, and there was like an instant connection. And I drew him, and 2 weeks later, he had dinner with my mum.
Wow.
It was very sort of bang, very instant, the connection.
It's like the introduction, isn't it? You know, hello, you're my future husband.
Yeah. Well, at that point, I didn't know, obviously. It was more sort of like, well, this is someone I really like.
Yeah.
And I didn't sort of necessarily introduce him as my husband. And my mom was, "Oh, you found someone from London. Could you not find a nice Dutch boy?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, I don't know. It's just you fall in love with who you fall in love with, isn't it?"
Exactly. But did you have that inkling at the beginning? Did you sort of think, "Oh, yes, there's definitely something there"?
The weird thing is, I'm not a massive planner. So for me, it was more sort of like, okay, I'll jump into this because it feels right.
Yeah.
And then we'll see where it goes. And my mum was instantly worried, "Oh, you're going to move to London, of course." And I was like, "No, of course not. We're not there yet." Yeah. And a year and a half later, I did.
Wow.
But yeah, it's sort of, I don't know. I'm very much a person of living in the moment.
Yes.
So for me, it was just, let's go for this. This feels good. Yeah. Rather than sort of planning ahead and thinking, "Oh God, this is my future husband, and this is how we're going to plan our wedding," because none of that.
Oh, so once you did decide, and you said, was it he popped the question?
He popped the question, yeah. It was funny because we sort of once I moved to London, and my mum came to visit us, and then she was all okay with me being here and all that. So 4.5 years in, my partner and we were sort of having this discussion. He was upstairs getting dressed. I was downstairs doing I don't know what, and we're sort of having this shouting match over the stairs. So what shall we do for our fifth anniversary together? And it's sort of, I said, "Well, you could ask me to marry you." At which he ran down the stairs, fell on one knee, and sort of asked me. And I was like, "Oh, yes, of course." So that was going to be our fifth wedding anniversary, or our fifth anniversary that we were going to get married on.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, we had to have all sorts of documents and this and that because we wanted to get married in Holland. Because a gay marriage wasn't legal at that point here in England. So we had to go and get lots of different documents. And he's originally from South Africa, so that took a little while. Yeah. So we got married on our sixth wedding, or sixth anniversary of being together.
Oh, well, isn't that just well, careful what you wish for. Blimey, you said it out loud, and it's
exactly, and then it happened. It's amazing, though. I like it. It was sort of like quite a magical moment.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. So obviously, then you got all your documentation in place. So tell me about the wedding day itself. Where did it take place? Because I've seen some pictures.
It was a very sort of funny day, because my partner is works in program and project management.
Okay.
So he had carefully to the very minute exactly sort of planned what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And because we had quite a group of people coming from London, they were all staying in Amsterdam, because obviously that was sort of close to where I live.
Sure.
And we were sort of getting married in the village where I grew up, and we had booked this lovely little church which is on a riverside. And we were going to do the ceremony and the party after exactly there, because then we thought they don't have to travel, they don't have that issue. And we had arranged for a bus to pick our guests up from Amsterdam to take them over, and that bus turned out late, and he couldn't park where they said they were going to park. And then he said, oh, but your guests can come to the bus. And my guests were like, but we don't know Amsterdam, we don't know where to go. And so they turned up over an hour late to the wedding.
Wow.
But thankfully the registrar was all okay with it, and she didn't have any other obligations. So we waited around the corner of the church for the bus to arrive with the guests from there.
Wow.
It was all very, very sort of like, oh my God, nothing's going right here.
Oh, well,
afterwards, you look back and you think, oh my God, it's such a good story.
Yeah, well, I mean, I bet for Sean that was a real anxious moment, obviously, if he's a planner, but maybe not so much for you. So it sounds like you balance each other out quite well, actually.
We are a total case of opposites attract. Absolutely, yes.
Oh, well, it sounds like, I mean, from what I could see of the pictures, lots of family and friends there. It did look very sort of intimate and a lovely gathering. So what was the style of the wedding? So you mentioned you had the ceremony and then you had the party there. Tell us a little bit more about
it was sort of funny, because I didn't really plan like in a style.
Yes.
Obviously we were sort of quite colorful, and the registrar asked us whether she said, oh, I can dress in my normal clothes, or I can dress like in the robe that they have, which is like a dark blue with a gold little sort of thread on. And I said, no, just wear your own thing. So she came like really dressed to the ninth with gold cowboy boots and like a colorful dress. And it was really sort of that kind of vibe. We just went like quite loose. And we sort of decided to mix some Dutch wedding traditions with British wedding traditions.
Yes.
So in Holland, you would not necessarily exchange vows in the ceremony, but we sort of injected that into our ceremony. And then we did a high tea after because very typical English again. Yes. And I think the Dutch sort of like the idea of having like a high tea as well. It's sort of, it's becoming more sort of a thing in Holland. So it was basically sort of a bit of mixing and picking the best of different traditions and sort of making it our own. And I remember we sort of decided to do this sort of between the ceremony and the party. We had this moment where we would take off our ties and knot them together, so to tie the knot. Lovely. And that was also sort of a moment from going to the formal to the more informal part of the whole
That's a really
wedding.
Lovely idea, because we do a lot of those symbolic sort of little moments. You know, it's those things that really make the difference. And
it makes it very personal.
Yeah, and you got to fuse different parts of your culture, your backgrounds and your heritage, as it were, together, which is lovely. So, I mean, you talked about colour, and I can see that you are in your lovely wedding outfit there.
Thank you.
So, tell us about that, because Sean wore something slightly different, like colour-wise. So obviously a big fan of colour, so I expected nothing less, as I say. But tell us about the outfits.
The outfits came together sort of before the wedding. We didn't have a clue initially. We were sort of going in suit, and my partner is very much like business suit kind of guy.
Okay.
And I was a bit like, but I wanted sort of slightly looser. So I ordered a pair of shoes online, blue suede, sort of like loafers.
Your shoes.
And they were too big for me. So Sean said, "Ooh, you know what? I'll have them. I like them as well. And I bought another pair, which fit me. And then when we got married, I was like, we're getting married in summer. Let's do like a very loose sort of summer wedding with no socks, slippers, and like a linen suit, so that it's all a bit more sort of casually kind. And so we went to go and have our suits made, and I thought he's going to go for like a charcoal or like a dark blue. And I always thought, well, I'll go a little bit more sort of brighter. And then he decided on this sort of sea green, and he went with a light blue shirt underneath. So it was quite sort of, I was surprised by his choice, but he really, really liked it. And then I sort of adapted to a sort of apple green. So we fitted really well together.
Yeah, it did look
And lovely. One of our guests from Canada, she was so sweet, said, "Oh, I really admire your sartorial choices." I thought she probably thought it was a little bit out there.
I think it's lovely. I mean, did you make any part of it? Because I know you're very creative, or was it a case of sourcing?
Well, I wanted the top hat.
Yes.
That was something that I really, really wanted. And I sort of decorated. I've got now I've got a green feather on it, but I had some peacock feathers on.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of like a sign of good luck.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really make any part of the outside. We made a buttonhole for us both and for our mothers that were the witnesses to the wedding.
Yeah.
But I didn't sort of do anything else for the outfit because I thought it needs to be sort of together.
Yeah. And you had very long hair at the time, didn't you?
I had massively long hair, shoulder length. It was and no beard, so I looked like a boy. Basically, if I look back, I'm like, oh my god, I was so boyish. But things change. I mean, I've had shorter hair, and at the moment, I'm sort of sporting a Mohican kind of style. Yes. It changes all the time.
I love your earring. Show us the earring.
That's a little strawberry because I live in Strawberry Hill.
Oh, see, you're just tying it all together, aren't you? You're so well coordinated. Ta-da.
And I don't even think about it that much.
It's just effortless, isn't it, for
effortless. And wedding flowers. We obviously had to talk wedding flowers. So we had a meeting with our caterer.
Yes.
And I knew her because she was local as well, and lovely woman. And she was like, "Oh God, yeah. Well, I can take all your worries away with the flowers. I can do them for you, and then you have nothing to worry about." And I was like, "Okay, great. Let's do that. Nothing to do for me." And then she said, "What are you planning to do for the flowers?" So she said, "Well, I think it's going to be like a big vase with white roses or something." And Sean looked at me and he said, "You're not going to be happy with that.
No.
You better do it yourself, mate." So he sort of talked me into doing my own flowers, which was actually perfect because it was such a good distraction on the day before we got married. Because I mean, it's always a little bit nerve-wracking, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But it gave me like really something to do. So I went to the flower market in Aalsmeer, and they had like a cash and carry section.
Yeah.
And they knew me from the years before because I mean I'm fairly recognizable. and so I just bought all the things that I wanted. So I had mirrors and sort of. I bought some protea because Sean is from South Africa. I thought it would be nice to have some flowers from there.
Very nice.
We had peonies in there, roses, and it was all a sort of orange. There was red, there was pink, it was all sort of like really warm colors, a little bit of purple in there. So it was a real mixture. And then I went out in the countryside where I live because I live in the countryside, or I lived, I should say, in the countryside. And I cut some long grasses, so I added some grasses from the roadside, and it was all very sort of quite organic. And it was funny because a lot of the people that came to the wedding had never sort of seen like wedding flowers before. And they're like, "Oh my God, it's the most amazing flowers that I've ever seen." And I was like, they're okay. I mean, I didn't have like a massive budget for them. And I also didn't want to be like the whole arch and everything like that. I had 4 big arrangements and then some little bits on the table.
Yeah.
A little bouquet for the rings.
Yeah.
That my goddaughter came to bring when we went in the ceremony, and she was a bit shy, so her little sister came to sort of together. They came to bring the bouquet with their rings on, which is really cute. And then corsages buttonholes for us, and for the witnesses. So yeah, it was really fun.
Oh, it's amazing, because obviously you are inspired by nature and your love of colour. So I think that was obviously a really important part for you, the wedding florals. But I mean, it sounds like it came quite naturally to you, sort of piecing it all together. Would you ever consider doing wedding florals? I kind of imagine you doing a big wedding installation, you know, top hat or something, you know, maybe.
Oh, I've done quite a lot of weddings, mostly for sort of like friends and family, where they sort of go, oh, well, we're getting married in church, we want flowers in the church. So I do like church flowers, and then sometimes like for the venue where the actual party is as well. I remember for my brother, who got he got married in a church somewhere else, and then he had the party in the same venue as where we got married.
Wow. Okay.
And I did like big sort of chandeliers out of gypsophilia, and then filled with white balloons, and then at midnight that I sort of arranged for 4 people, because I had 4 of them, sort of to pop a little string, and then all the balloons sort of fell down as like a big gesture. So that sort of thing. Yeah, I haven't done things like that, but here in London, I'm a freelancer, so I don't really do a lot of designing of the weddings, but I work on a lot of them for several of my clients, and I really enjoy it. It's because it's always a happy occasion.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it really does sound like your day was a complete reflection of you, but was that really important for you? And we've got a lot of supporters and followers from the LGBTQ community, and we see a lot of people that face challenges around their weddings, but you know, we do encourage people to be themselves, you know, and you very much are, you know, the epitome of that. So it was obviously important for you to be who you are and express yourself on the day with colour and everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could be anything else.
No.
That's what my partner always says. You're so unashamedly yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think that is, I don't know. It sort of comes natural, and I think actually moving to London has sort of highlighted that, because in Holland I was always dressing a little bit snazzy and sort of colourful, but once I moved to London, and it being a big town, and sort of eccentricity is a bit more celebrated here. In Holland, if you look different, very quickly everyone sort of cuts you off and say, oh, why don't you behave like normal?
Right. Okay.
Weirdly enough, you think that it would be sort of more accepted there, and I think it is. As soon as you go sort of more extreme, like I am now, with more color, people sort of will talk to you in the street, say, oh my God, you look amazing. But if you're sort of tentatively trying to get there, then very quickly people might sort of, no, don't do that.
Oh, right.
Whereas in England, people just love it. They celebrate that sort of whole eccentricity and sort of slightly, I don't know, it made it easier for me to become the very colorful person that I am now.
Oh, and we're very grateful, and you are very welcome here.
Oh, thank you.
So obviously each year you're involved quite heavily at Kew, aren't you, for fabulous event. It's an orchid event, isn't it?
Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, that's fine. No, it's the glass house, isn't it? You look after the big installations there. I watched on your website actually a little video about it. There are so many varieties of orchid I did not realise. Tell me about that. And did you have any on your wedding day?
I actually didn't have orchids in my wedding day.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, but I guess I was involved by that time already in the Orchid Festival at Kew. I started off as a volunteer at Kew Gardens, because it's really close to me. I'm passionate about flowers and plants. The first couple of years I worked in the Arboretum, which is like a tree section. But I helped unload the orchid delivery that came for the Orchid Festival, and sort of got talking to some of the people that were sort of building it in that time. And as soon as they heard that I was a florist, they were like, oh, we'll have a piece of you. Can you spare some days for us to help us build this stuff?
Yeah.
So I did that for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And then I had a full-time job and I couldn't do it for a year. So I was out for a year. And then I sort of came to visit because I was still a friend of Q. And the manager back then said, oh, well, if you have time to come back and help us again, please do. So I sort of went back to it, and it's amazing. There are thousands and thousands of orchids coming in and building all these amazing displays. And over the years, sort of my role in it has grown as well, because I do a lot of the sculptural bits for the Orchid Festival. So they have like a display of animals, and the last couple of years, the theme has mostly been around a country.
Okay.
And we do sort of like animals that are very specific for that country. It's just there's a lot of volunteers helping with that Orchid Festival, and everyone's always, it's such a good atmosphere. And the funny thing is that I have a lot of freelance colleagues, and some of them, because I always talk about it very enthusiastically, they said, oh, can I come and help for a day? And then I posted that on my Instagram, and then other people was like, oh my God, I want to come and help as well for a day. And that's also how Jan got involved, because Jan is helping me most years with Orchid Festival as well. So it's really a nice sort of community almost of people that love orchids. And you learn so much about it. Last year, well, not this year, because this year, due to the COVID pandemic, it's cancelled. But last year the theme was Indonesia, and Indonesia is like a big archipelago of all these islands, and it's slightly sort of divided roughly by a line, which one side is sort of more Asian type orchids, and the other side is more Australian type orchids.
Okay.
All these things I didn't know, and that's the good thing about Q. They sort of try to, beside it being really pretty and beautiful, they also try to educate people.
Yeah, I was going to say there was a real feel of that educating. So I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, I learned a lot about just the structure and the construction of it as well from what you were saying on the films. But I mean, it's amazing, and I would encourage anybody to go along. But talking of Q, actually, I wonder if you could do me a little favour, because I've actually got a wedding there later this year in the National Cemetery. So I wondered if you wouldn't mind blowing a kiss to the lovely Louise Perry, her colleague Natalie, and my bride and groom Sophie and Pedram. So if you wouldn't mind giving a little good luck kiss.
You're going to have the most beautiful wedding at Q that you could ever imagine, because it's an amazing
fabulous place. There, I absolutely love it. So now one of the other questions I was going to ask you, did you have any sort of favourite moments on your day, and did you sing? Because I've heard you sing and it's beautiful. You have quite the voice.
I did sing on my wedding day, indeed. It was funny because I had a friend who said, I sort of planned to sing something for Sean, because we had quite a lot of music on our wedding day, and some of it very emotional. And he sort of came, this is my favorite ABBA song of all times. And it's not a very well-known song. I've Been Waiting for You, it's called. And the weird thing was, I have a friend that I used to sing with in Holland, and she accompanied me on the piano, and I just sang it. And in the beginning, because there is a recording, in the beginning I can hear my voice sort of go a little bit sort of like creaky, filled with emotion, and then sort of I sort of settle into it, and it all comes out. And my partner is in the meantime howling his eyes out, which is that's so cute. And but everyone's like, oh my God, did you write that song yourself? And I was like, no, this is ABBA. of all bands, it's ABBA. But that was amazing. And then I wrote a lyric about getting married, and my friend set that to music, and she sang that during the ceremony, which is also lovely. And then we have a group of friends. We were a little choir, and only like a year before, one of my very close friends from that choir died of cancer. She was very sorely missed. So with a group of friends that we used to sing together, we came together and we sang The Rose, which was her favorite song. So that was also quite an emotional moment. It was basically one long string of lovely beautiful moments.
I think I mean, especially music, that does evoke emotion, doesn't it? So I think especially on that emotionally charged day, your wedding day, even more so. So do you think there was any standout moments in the ceremony or anything else at all that you'd like to sort of mention? What did you think was the real
standout moments? Oh my God. Oh, I don't know. I think the arrival, that was probably the most sort of impressive moment of because obviously my wedding guests, especially the Dutch ones, had been waiting at the church for over an hour by that time. And they were sort of getting a little bit restless, and the kids were running around and all that. And then suddenly sort of we arrive and had this sort of almost release of like the tension that had been building when the bus was delayed. So I think that was probably sort of like the biggest moment.
Yeah.
Because that of the tension of that release. No. And then it felt like a roller coaster after that, because everything was sort of planned. It just happened very, very naturally.
Well, it sounds like an absolutely lovely day. You know, something that I would love to officiate. And I guess my next question to you would be, would you do it again? Would you renew your vows? And if you do, send up a colourful flare and I'm there.
Would I? I don't know. I've like I said, I'm very much a person that lives in the moment. So I've not really even sort of given it much consideration whether I want to do that. I don't know. No, I'm not sure. I mean, I love a party. Don't misunderstand me. But I don't want to repeat of what we did before. So it would have to be something completely different.
Yeah.
I think if we do it again, and maybe then it would be here in London.
Sure.
I don't know. No, I'm not quite sure.
It sounds to me like you were completely happy with what you did, and maybe that ticked all the boxes for you both, and you don't feel the need to do anything again. But I mean, we've got lots of couples that do renew their vows, and it's a lovely way to kind of get everybody together. And I suppose after the pandemic and all the restrictions, it's quite a nice thing to do, isn't it? Gather your friends and your loved ones and and just say, we did it, we've survived, you know.
I understand the reason of doing it, because I had a discussion with friends here in London after the wedding, and they had just got married, and the whole sort of point of getting married and gathering everyone that means something to you, the whole meaning of it is sort of to declare your love to each other and your trust in each other to everyone that you like or love or want to be there. So that sort of the essence of that, I can understand that you want to maybe do that again at a later point in time, to renew your vows. But for myself, I haven't really given that much thought. Okay. I mean, we've been, when June comes this year, we'll be married 9 years.
Wow. Oh, next year then.
Exactly. So maybe sort of like at 9.5, I'll say, how shall we celebrate our 10th wedding anniversary, honey?
Down on one knee you go again.
But the weird thing is, in Holland we do like a bronze, silver, gold wedding anniversary, and bronze is 12.5 years, which is like a weird number, but it's half of 25, which is silver. And I remember my brothers and sisters who are all married, some of them have celebrated like their 12.5 year anniversary. So, but that would be in winter, which is December.
I'm sure you can make it fabulous though with
there's no doubt about that. But
absolutely,
I like the idea of sort of like the summer wedding, because it's just it's easier, and you can sort of go outside rather than having to be sort of in a venue. I love weddings that have sort of outside elements to them, because it just makes it so, I don't know, more romantic in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's your love of nature as well. If you can be surrounded by natural landscape environment, then that's
absolutely.
So before we come to a close, I was going to ask you, what's the best thing about being married then? What's sort of things to you about your relationship? What sort of
the best thing about being married is I would say it's the security of just being together and being that unit, and I mentioned we are very different people, but we sort of share a lot of our values. Our core values are the same, even though we are sort of, he's much more tech and I'm much more creative. But I think that melting together of two people, that is something that is really special. And I mean, you can have something similar with friends, but if you live together and you spend all your time together, you become sort of like a unit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds corny and cheesy when I say it like that, but
no, I mean, you've just described my relationship with my husband. He's my tech hero. I'm rubbish with things like that. I'm the creative. I love making things and expressing myself in that way. And I think actually that's probably what really makes it work, is that sort of you find,
and also sometimes challenging each other on things, isn't it? I mean, I'm not saying that we have the absolute perfect relationship, but sometimes it's good to ask these questions and sort of say, why do you do these things you do? And then often it turns out it's something from your childhood or whatever, and that sort of thing, to get to know each other to that depth, is something that is really beautiful, I think, and
I think so.
Creates a level of trust and sort of loyalty and just that's something that sort of like a big comfortable blanket that you can just revel in together.
Yeah, it's like a big warm hug, isn't it? That's the way I describe it. It makes you feel
I sometimes say it's like an old boot that fits just perfectly, so beautifully worn in that it's just like a slipper, that it's so comfortable. But when I say that, my partner's a bit like, are you calling me an old boot?
I know what you mean, don't worry.
Exactly.
Oh, well, listen, you have been an absolute star. I've loved talking to you. I could talk to you all day.
No problem. I have that from my mum. My mum is like a big talker as well.
Oh, I bet she's lovely as well.
Oh, she is. She's a darling.
Oh, well, listen, thank you for your time. And I'm sure our followers are going to absolutely love listening to this interview. And I do hope to see you soon. But don't forget, if you do renew your bells, I'm there with bells on. Quite literally, I probably would be there with bells on, just for you.
Thank you. Lovely. You'll get the invite if we do.
Oh, bless you. Well, thank you so much. Take care.
Lovely to meet you, Jenny.
And you. Bye.
Bye.